Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bill White again, and I'm going to talk to you about two cases that we've already put videos on, and I've put the title up here. These are difficult cases that should be done by university-trained orthodontists, and I think that's true. Then the university-trained orthodontists may not have experience in this type of case, but I feel like that they need to take the lead in this, and that should be where the buck stops. And they say, well, we can't do this type of orthodontics and make a living at it. In other words, you charging the same thing for a difficult case that you would charge, or pretty much the same as simple regular orthodontics. This type of orthodontics should have a price of its own. I mean, people are out there, there's many of them, and if we get into doing this, it's not as difficult as you think. And I gradually worked into this, and we've done a lot of cases where we just took everything that came, and if I could help somebody, it didn't matter whether they were 30 or 50 or 60 or 80. I've never done anybody, started them in their 90s, but I know that it would work. Myself, I'm 91, and I have all my teeth, and the bone's still good. And if I wanted to come in and put orthodontic work in my own mouth, it would work. My teeth would move just like anybody else's would. It may take a little more time. The bone is still there. As long as you're living, you can move teeth. So that is not the thing anymore. You can move people's teeth regardless of the age, and we've got some cases where they went over into the 90s, but I've never just started anybody in the 90s that I know of. And these are nice. I'm going to show two cases, and we have a video on both of these if you want to go back and get details. I'm going to run through the actual work but show you the problems that you have with these cases. And case number one here is just the nicest guy you ever ran into, but he was having difficult time with a temporomandibular joint. I mean, he was having trouble. Both sides of his jaw hurt. I mean, he was having difficulty. And he actually was in charge of the office or the business area where they took care of the computers for the American Airlines, making all these reservations and all this stuff. That would drive me nuts just thinking about it, you know. Well, it was stressful for him. He was in charge of a bunch of people that did this, and after we got his work done and he stopped the pain that he had and he got his teeth straightened up to some extent, then he sent some other people from his office in, and we did them. And just, it's so gratifying to be able to take something like that. He was having a tremendous amount of pain doing that. Just a real nice guy, though. Now, he had a problem, and we started him in 1993, and you can see what it is. I think these models may have been taken earlier or something. I don't know. They've got different dates on upper and lower models, and he's got this deep bite. In other words, his lower jaw is locked in there. He chews, and his jaw really wants to come out, but he can't get it out, and he rubs the teeth together, and these are crowns right across here, and they have porcelain on the back side of them, and the porcelain on the crown is just like a wet rock that you would have on something. And so you'll be amazed when I open this up if you haven't looked at these videos before. He has ground the front teeth off. Like I've seen some pretty bad ones, but I think this is as bad as any I've ever seen. And I'm going to try to run through these pretty quick, not explain everything. If you want to go back and look at the videos, I have one single video on each one of these gentlemen. Now this bicuspid is almost totally crowded out right in here. Now you're going to see me move my arm in the picture here, but you don't see me up here writing on the case. But actually I just draw on the case as we go, and I can erase it easily. And this is a class 2 relationship in the front of the mouth, but class 1 right here. But because this is squeezed out, these teeth are back further than they should be, and this cuspid shows to be about that much too far out here in the class 1. To get it back to class 1, you got to move the jaw out and get the teeth out there, and then we've got to free this. Now he's having a terrific pain with his joints back here, and the head of the condyle is rubbing or coming in contact with the retrodiscal tissue that is highly vascular. There's arteries, veins, and lymph channel, and nerves, and everything in this retrodiscal tissue. That's where the synovial fluid is produced, and the synovial fluid goes into the joint and carries the food structure and carries out the waste product in the joint and takes care of that, kind of like kidneys. It's a complicated thing to do that. And this is just giving him all kind of trouble back here, and he's got trouble with his neck and his shoulders, his headache, and all this kind of problems. Excuse me. So he's having difficulty, and it's brought about by this jaw not being able to be brought forward. If you can bring the lower jaws forward and have the teeth fit together properly, you solve a great percentage of temporomandibular joint problems if you can do that. Now let me get on down the line here a little bit. This is the left side of the mouth, of course. Crowding in here too, but not as bad as the other side. And we've got these same dates, and we got this problem with this class 2 in the anterior part of the mouth, but this is completely closed. His lower jaw, we refer to it as just being locked in that position, and the jaw wants to come out further, but it can't come out because he has to go back there to chew, and he rubs that and it's worn these teeth down, and it's going to be a interesting thing. You see it here in just a minute. Now one of these crowns has got a hole in it, but this is porcelain across here, a great portion of it, and it's just like a wet rock, just grinds those teeth off. And anyway, when you look here, you can't see how much is ground off. This is just a sharp edge, but it goes from here down to the bottom, you see. And it is just all these teeth across here are worn out like that. And it was very difficult to catch hold of it. Now, just starting a case like this, if somebody really doesn't know what they're doing, they think, well, you got to take these teeth out, you know. And that's not true. You do not need. These are some pretty sorry crowns. They're gold. But looks like somebody just put a thumbprint in the middle of them or something up there. He has those redone later and does some, of course, crowns on all these teeth right across here. I knew his referring dentist very well, and a good friend of mine, and actually he took the stuff off here and put crowns on these a little bit before I was ready to, but it did good, and we worked it out fine. Okay, Now you can't see the anterior teeth in the mouth, but looking at it, we'll kind of go fast here. And the guy's having all this pain, and his jaw is locked back in this direction, and that head of the condyle is contacting this retrodiscal tissue that is so vascular and produces all the synovial fluid. The tissue that covers the condyle, that separates it from the fossa. Of course, you got a separation of the whole thing, but there's a pad in here. We call it the disc. It's a strap, more or less. But there's so much pressure on that pad that no blood vessels and no nerves at all grow in that tissue. So the tissue has to be fed from this synovial fluid that is formed in the retrodiscal tissue back in the back of the mouth. Now, if you bite with 10 pounds out here on the front teeth, your muscles are closer to this jaw joint back here, and for them to bite too and put 10 pounds out here, the condyles and the fossa up here will take probably 20 or 25 or even more. I'd have to get with an engineer and see exactly the distance where the muscle attaches and where the joint is, and then how much further it is out here to the front teeth to tell exactly how much force you're going to put on this. But it takes so much force that that tissue has no blood vessels in it and no nerves, so you can't feel it if it gets starved or you bruise it, but then the tissue around it does, and it has to protect it, and then the pain kind of radiates and goes out around, and people with TMJ problems will have shoulders hurting and necks and headaches and all kind of various troubles. So if you find anybody like that, they've got a tender joint up there somewhere you find, then fix that. That's probably what's causing the whole thing to go. All right, let's go on a little further here. Here are those teeth that wore those off. Now here are the front teeth. I mean, they are ground down to the gum line. I mean, if this was the tooth, the lower tooth, something like this, coming in here, the whole front of that tooth is ground off down here to this gum line. And you say, well, I can't get a hold of these teeth. That's what I told myself. I mean, if you do this type of work, you've got to be a little innovative in finding out and doing some things. So I thought about, well, how can I get a hold of them? And naturally I came up with bands. And so you can fit a band around that and then etch this down in here. This is worn where the nerve canal was, but the nerves have receded out of that. And you can etch this and put a band on there and then fill it up with a good composite that bonds to this enamel and the dentin structure here. And then you work with that from out here. That's what we did to do this. And we put our intruding wire. You can learn all about intruding wires. You can go in. We've got many videos telling you about intruding wires, and we started that. This one on the birth of the intruding wire back 40-something years ago. So we've been using that for years, and it works, man. And we open this guy's bite. So you can see these teeth. They're just literally worn off at a straight angle right down. That's the back of these upper front teeth. And he's having all kind of trouble with his jaw joint because the synovial fluid, where it's formed in this retrodiscal tissue, is being pressed on or being invaded, or force on it that's giving it trouble, and he is having trouble. And here he's got all this stressful job too. Okay, here are these teeth. We jump forward here now, and we went in and banded the teeth like I showed you, and we put a conventional arch wire through there to kind of straighten all the teeth up. But this is an intruding wire here that would come, it would be coming way down like this, and we raise it up and hook it, and it's pushing this down. Of course, it's pushing up on the molar, just the same force, but he's chewing on this molar, so it doesn't bother. This is the conventional wire going in here. It'd be a flexible. Normally we'd take some Niti 016 or 014, something like that, or even that Wildcat wire, and put it in here. Now the intruding arch would be going way up like this, and we pull it down and hook it to this, and it's going to pick these teeth up. It's going to go down with these. These will tend to go up, these will tend to go down, but they chew on those, and so they do very little, except we put a bite plate in here, so they move together a little bit, but not very much. Okay, let's get on the way here. Now this is on the other side. At the same time as we're freeing this up, we're opening this gap for this bicuspid to come through the space. So we got a spring in here pushing forward on that conventional arch wire that's in there, and we're opening the space for that bicuspid. As we drop it down, we've got lots of space up there. Now we look at the other side, and we've got a spring in here that's opening this gap too for this bicuspid. And now we had a bite plate. We had to put something in here for him to bite on so we could get a hold of those teeth, even though we had them banded and had them chewing against this up here at the top. So you've got to catch that. Now when we open this up, these teeth don't touch, and so they tend to move together. Whatever that gap is in there, it'll move together, and that'll give him a little addition to the vertical height of the lower third of the face. Okay, now you can see where those teeth are. Now these are the bands, and these are the teeth that are filled with composite, and he's chewing against these teeth right here. Now I'm going to run through this pretty quick. Now we have had this on, and the intruding wire putting this force in it here. Pick these up. These are in contact. These went up, and these went down. And now when he bites back here on the molars and everything, he's got a big space in here. So his referring dentist saw him, and he was in there, and so it was where he could go in and do the crowns in here. So he did. He just took this loose and went in and put crowns on all those teeth right there. So you can see that here as we go along with it. All right, this is the upper now straightened out pretty good up above. The lower's dropped down, so he's going to have room here to put the crowns on those teeth. Now, this bite plate we had, once we got those teeth short, we didn't really have to depend on it very much. So we actually were okay. Right in here, this has got a break in it in our bite plate. Now, the lower's coming along good, and we have expanded this gap and brought these teeth into that space, you see, and fixed that up. So, now, let's see. Okay, here is the, he's got the 6 crowns that my friend who referred him put on, and we just took care of that and straightened that out, and now all we had to do is finish the top part. But I wanted to say this: when we open this bite, this jaw moved forward on its own. We may have used a little class two elastics or something like that to bring this forward, but I don't even see any hooks up here, and very likely we put nothing in there. He just moved his jaw forward to where it was comfortable, and his temporomandibular joint problem just literally went away. In other words, you give the jaw a choice where it wants to go and let it go where it wants to. Most of these cases, if you just let them position the jaw where they want it, and then you keep that position, move the teeth where they interdigitate at that point, then that solves, I would say, close to 80 or 85, maybe 90% of these TMJ cases. They're strictly jaw position problems, where I've found that out to be what happens in the cases that I've done over the years. And I've been working with temporomandibular joint stuff with orthodontics for over 30 years. And I don't think we ever ran into somebody we didn't get them out of pain. I can't stop all the clicks and all the other, there's a lot of other things in there. But we succeeded in getting these people out of pain, teach them what's going wrong, let them take care of themselves better. And so let me go ahead and I'll try to finish this gentleman up here. And just a real nice guy, and I was so glad that I could come in there and help him. He's got a nice little smile on his face there. And when we got the problem of the jaw fixed, he was able to take care of all this computer stuff on the American Airlines. He was in charge of that whole office, was doing the computer work for all the reservations. Can you imagine the mess that that this would cause? And so he took care of that. In other words, when we got the physical thing stopped and got the jaw where it wanted to be, the stressful mess that his job was creating was not able to give him trouble. He was able to cope with it, and that's marvelous. And I am so happy we helped him. We put a retainer on it, and that was 1995, I think, in here. And there's a lower retainer we put in, and here it is in 95. Let's see, I think we watched him for a few more years, and we got this cuspid now right back here in a class 1 relation. If you look at the sides of it, everything's fitting. We move these teeth a little forward, so they're in a kind of super class 1 relation, but there is no pain in the jaw area back up here, and he does good. And these teeth are not being locked back up there anymore. And there's his lower. He had those crowns redone. They look better now than these on this side. And so he spent a lot of money crowning teeth. But cases like this, the charge should be considerably more than just simple everyday orthodontics that you can run them through like I don't know what, And look at this. And here the man has a nice looking smile now, nice teeth you can see. They're no beauty queen. I mean, it's got some problems, but the man has no pain and no problem. And I've watched him for several years. He came back in, and we watched him and took care of it. This was 93, and there's 98, and he had no trouble whatsoever. 92, 3, 98, and the teeth have settled in down there now. And it's the same thing in 98. I think that's the last pictures I've got on him. But anyway, we watched this guy for years after that he came in. I just don't have any pictures of him, say in 2010 or something like that. Now here's case number 2. This second gentleman had the same problem, or a very similar problem. He had a locked jaw. There's a closed bite, the jaw could not come forward, and he was having so much difficulty with his jaw joint and giving him headaches and shoulders and pain, and he was taking so much medication he could hardly do his job, and the jaw can't move forward like this. So we did this similar thing. We put the intruding wires on it, picking this up and taking this down right here and opening this up and moving it forward, and we had room to put the teeth in there. You see that bicuspid's completely crowded out there, and that's a class 1 back in this area. That looks it's kind of a super class 1, but then this is class 2 out here. This cuspid needs to be moved over this part, and this is go back. So we're going to raise this up, and that'll change the angle of these teeth meeting here, free the jaw up, and it comes forward, and we don't have the, just immediately when we free that jaw up, this side was in a little better shape, but we freed that up and brought this forward, and we didn't have to move this as much on this side, so you can do it unilaterally too. And we brought that forward there, and looking at it from this angle, these teeth, see, were just about wore in two down here, just chewing on that, grinding those teeth off. They look a little better as we go through the case. Let me go back and erase that. All right, and he's got one bicuspid completely out over here. The other guy had two almost. This one was worse, and this one was about like this case right here. And so we're gonna not take any teeth out on this. You could take teeth out and work on them if that was the best thing to do, but it's not the best thing to do here. So the case, looking at it from the inside, you can see the upper, the lingual side of the upper teeth, and the lowers come almost to the gingival tissue up above. So you're going to have to lower these lower anterior teeth, and you're going to raise the others till you get this leveled out. And then you're going to move this thing through that gap, and you'll have to lower it too. So you'll be changing a bunch of it. Now here we jump ahead. I'm going to try to finish this quicker than I did on the other one. We've intruded the teeth. You see the upper teeth, raised them, brought these down, and the jaw has moved forward, and immediately when I got that done, this jaw joint problem went away on this guy. And that happens over and over and over again, where you advance the mandible to where it wants to go. Let the mandible pick its position, and now you set everything up with the mandible in a comfortable position where the teeth interdigitate at that point. Because you got to get the interdigitation or they'll move the set of teeth to get it. Okay, we put a spring in there, we opened the gap, and we didn't have to do all that much on the other side. And we, where that thing, that tooth wore in on this side right here, you can see that. And this is the tooth that we're trying to bring in, that first bicuspid. We're going to push it out in here, so we had to increase it. And I couldn't get enough force here, so I put a big daddy arch wire in there, if I remember correctly, and tied that thing to it. And we pitted that tooth against all these teeth over here. and it pushed that thing through that and opened where we had to open the gap first too. Okay, there's the Big Daddy arch where you got an area to expand anything walking and breathing that comes in your office. You can expand it with that. Okay, now let me get this out of the way. And here we tied that to this big arch, and it pushed out on this side over here just with the same force. But we took all of these teeth pushing against this one tooth was carrying the load, and it brought it on through the gap. No problem there. All right, wait just a minute. Okay, so we used the Big Daddy arch in doing that, and we just increased the both arches. We expanded them and brought them forward and put them in a class 1 relation, and immediately after we brought that jaw out or freed them up, this pain left. Now if he'd have still had it, we needed to bring this further forward to get this further out. We could do that too. So one thing you do just to move it a little bit, you strip all the teeth, both sides, upper and lower, and you close the stripped area on the lower from the front to the back and the upper from the back to the front. And then your interdigitation will move the teeth further forward if you do that. So that's one way of making some room in there. All right, we look at it. It's ground in good and his teeth are lined up. And so we're just going to finish this guy up. He's having no pain. We've still got the 3 to 3 on the bottom, but we put that on the top. Now, he wears the retainer. Boy, I tell you, maybe too much. So you want to tell him take it out frequently, brush it good, put it back. Now, if you lose it, you're going to have problems. If you lose the thing, the bite will tend to deepen again. If you find it right quick, you can put it back after it. Maybe they've moved a little bit, and the retainer will kind of straighten the teeth back up to get them fitting back in the retainer. Okay, here's the bite plate we have, so we hold this bite in here. That won't let it deepen like it was before. As long as he stays with that, it won't give any problem. Okay, this is 83. I guess that's when we started. I don't know. That was finishing the thing. All right, it's lined up. That's good. And here he is, and this is 1986. He's got one of the teeth is dead, but it wasn't dead because of movement that we told. This tooth died from some other reason. We may have helped it some, but anyway, it was not totally the movement of the teeth, because we moved a lot of others a lot further. Okay, this is the molars, and we've got a good class 1 relationship on both sides of the mouth, and he's wearing this retainer, and that's 1986. Here he is in 1991. He's the same tooth. It's darker and it's getting look worse. And but he hasn't had any problem. But he stays with that retainer. It's 91 now, and he doesn't have any pain. Gets along good. He lost his hair and he had a toupee back in one of those deals, but here he is in 82, and that's 93, 82, and 93. All right, everything's going good. We've got him lined up, and he's had no difficulty. And this is 1993, and that's 04. So we started out, and this is years later, and he finally wears one retainer out, and I think we built him another one. Here he has lost his upper hair and decided to decorate the lower hair, and so he's got him a nice beard now, but he has no TMJ problem at all. And there he was when we started. I think that's real hair there, and there is an 04. So that's 95 of 82, be 20, 82 would be 18 years, and this is 04, so 18, about 22 years difference in there. And this is 06, and he got his bite coming down good there. This is his old retainers he's worn from time one there to start, and we made him another one in 07 and put it in, and that's what he's wearing there. And I think the last pictures we got is 84 to 07. And I hope that many of you will take this, and I don't mean to fuss at the orthodontists that are trying to do the best they can. I just believe that these tough cases really should be taken on by the orthodontists that have the opportunity to go back to the university. But the universities right now, I know, don't teach this. I've worked with two men who were the head man in the orthodontic department, and I also worked with Dr. Miro up at West Virginia as a good friend of mine, and Dr. Mitchell there out of Atlanta. He and I taught together for several years, and then Dr. Larry White was he established the orthodontic school in San Antonio, Texas, that university, and was teaching at Baylor here while we taught together here for years. So they're trying, but it's difficult to train people in this type of complicated orthodontics. But there's more of this out there than we'll be able to do. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of this type of orthodontics, and I hope that orthodontists kind of take the lead and go in and train at least many of their people in the ability to do these adult orthodontic cases. So I'm going to leave it with you, and I'll leave him smiling for you. But this is a gratifying thing to solve their pain problem and straighten their teeth up at the same time. So hope you get something out of this thing. And we spent about 42 minutes here if I don't get this thing off here, but we'll cut some of it out. So I'm going to stop and thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join our group. Thank you now. Bye-bye.